All right, let's not waste any time. We got a pocket change market report for the weekend. This is the November 19th, 2022. How the days are just flying by through the holidays. Woo! Wow. What are we going to talk about? Well, as you guys know, this is the place, this is the go-to video twice a week where you guys check things out. I'm sure you guys have found a number of these coins, much as I have. Of course, everything's predicated to actually doing the work, going out there, going through and finding large amounts of change. I just picked up like a good fair amount. I'd say like $400 and change from a friend. Who just didn't care that, that they were giving this away. It saved him the time of actually rolling up all the stuff and taking it to the bank. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, going out there to the banks, picking up coin rolls to hunt through is another way that you could find some of these varieties and errors. So keep that in mind. That is never going to change, and it's going to continue to do so till the end of time. Well, when it comes to physical money, that is. Who knows when all that's going to stop? Probably, after I'm long gone. But, these are, again, ways that you could find these coins, either to add to your collection or resell, like a lot of people do. People are making phenomenal money today going through these bankrolls and finding these errors and varieties. And there's a lot of good ones. Okay, again, 2022, it's kind of been that capitulation point in which the U.S. Mint has launched just an unbelievably wide array of various error coins. And we're going to talk about a few of them here today, along with a bunch of the older stuff that has just come out of the woodwork. And I would say a lot of that's attributed to the fact that this is the holiday season. People are wrapping up their coins, their piggy banks that have saved up all throughout the year. They're taking them to the bank and then therefore introducing undiscovered, unsearched through material that we all love to do. Another thing to point out, all of the information today you're going to see today is realized sold sales on eBay within the last about 48 hours. Okay, I generally don't go beyond that to keep the market fresh or the market info fresh on these. We don't talk about graded coins. Again, that's a very expensive, unneeded expense for a lot of these, as they certainly do sell all on their own. All right, they speak for themselves. So let's go ahead and check things out here. Let's see what the sellers on eBay have been capitalizing on. Starting out with this one, I thought this one was pretty neat. I've seen a few of these over the last couple years, but this is a 2020p Tallgrass Prairie ATV quarter, and without having to enhance the photo or get in too close to any sort of particular part of this image, I mean, this thing kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. There's a pretty sizable little interior die break or a die chip. Looks like it's big enough to be just an interior die break. The thing is massive. But again, something like this that traditionally most folks would overlook. I know for the longest time I would overlook things like that. Of course, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we were talking about a different time in hunting history, where little die chips, you could barely sell them for face value. But today, it's a different story. These are collected as they're being attributed on websites like Cuds on Coins and Mad Die Clashes and things like that. So now there's this kind of like just bursting influence and interest in these minor errors, and traditionally a coin shop will never buy things like this. So that's the beauty part, because you could make this type of hunting and collecting completely different to what the normal market is for what a coin dealer would deem as a comfortable investment. This is not one of them. This is a hunt and find, add to your collection, or just sell, and it's relatively cheap. This one ended up selling for $8.60. So if you did find one and you're looking to make a few dollars in the process, heck, $8 is a pretty good return on just 25 cents. So always keep that in mind. Here's another one right here. Again, this is probably a coin that to most untrained eyes would look like simply damaged. This is a 1953S Lincoln Wheat cent, which looks to have like a crater right there on the obverse of the coin. About close to K3 or the 3 o'clock position on the front of the coin. But what we have here is simply just a planchet flaw. All right, a piece of the planchet had fallen out probably after the strike. Just due to impurities in the makeup of the composition itself. The world's an imperfect place. Things like this happen. And this is what I would consider to be one of the more minor errors that you could come across there. And, would you overlook it and just toss it back? I know, again, bringing it back to a good old story, I've tossed back coins like this. They were just at a specific time in history very unspectacular. But today, these are being pursued while people are not spending a ton of money on them to where you could retire. How about $10? $10 is what this one sold for. Again, a lesson to a lot of folks out there that don't know a whole lot about the hobby. There is a pretty wide audience for things like this. And again, a really nice, fantastic sale on an otherwise unspectacular find. So I'm all in with things like this. Here's a really cool one right here. We actually had a number of these type of errors come through here in the last day or two. We have a 1982 large date bronze Lincoln Memorial cent. So the reverse of the coin is very well struck. However, you see a considerable amount of weakness on the front. Again, to the untrained person who doesn't know a whole lot about errors, some would speculate that this is a coin that was struck through a lot of grease. I mean, a lot. And, depending on how much grease, it could be a lot. But this particular error is what they call a struck through capped die. So a coin had actually stuck to the hammer die at one point, and it never let loose, therefore creating what is essentially a hat over the die, covering up any devices that are on that die. It takes a lot of strikes in order to flatten out that cap die before, maybe a mint employee finds out and they pry it off and, get rid of it. But oftentimes, the dies after so many strikes will thin out, almost like razor paper thin. And this is what they call a very late stage, where the die cap had thinned out enough where the original devices of the die are now punching through that cap, thereby leaving, what is, a very smushy, very weak-looking obverse strike. Late stage enough to where you could read the date, you could see Liberty, the motto, you could see the profile of Mr. Abe on there as well. This coin ended up selling for $19.50, which is kind of like an average, $20 to $40, depending on the date, depending on condition. The regular stuff still applies for valuation on these. Here's a little bit of a 3/4 view. Very seldom do we see this kind of viewpoint from these type of sales, but this is what it looks like from the side. It's kind of got a little bit of a deep dish to it. Rather shallow. I'm not going to say deep. Some of them do get pretty deep, though, especially on the earlier state struck throughs. But pretty cool. Very strong. You can see a nice date on there. You absolutely know that it's a large date, which is pretty cool as well. All right, our first piece of paper money to talk about. How about a silver certificate? Man, these things are all over the place at the coin shop scene, at the show circuit. You can pick these up for as like $1.50 to $2, depending on condition and how generous the coin dealer would be. But this one's really neat. If you can see, the bottom left serial number string is obscured a little bit. This is what they call an obstructed third print. So there is probably maybe a paper remnant or something that was on top of the sheet at one point prior to the printing of that overprint, thereby leaving just a partial serial number. So that's pretty neat. The note itself is not in spectacular shape. It's got a little staining here and there. It's got the usual amount of soiling. These things did circulate quite a bit. All right. Kind of hard to comprehend today that you can actually trade this in for a silver dollar, or $1 worth of silver in general, 4 quarters, 2 quarters, 5 dimes, whatever. This one ended up selling for $62.45 with 18 bids. Errors like this were commonplace, during its time, and most folks at that point in time really didn't, bat an eye at these, and they just end up spending them. Kind of like today's die chips, where today they're coveted, for $5 to $10. 10 years ago they weren't. Same with these things. They're worth a lot more today than they were when they were circulating around. So, another lesson for you: always look for these. Coin shops, they might have them. But you could see obstructed other prints too, reverse print, first print, and all that great stuff. There's a little bit of a back image, again, showing nothing new other than the fact that it's pretty well circulated. And a close-up of the obstruction print error on there. All right, pretty neat one here, although this is quite a common error. This is a 2005P West Virginia State quarter with a cut die break in the normal spots. So we have this one right here. A piece of the die had fallen off at one point just due through attrition, wear and tear on the die. So a piece of the die would fall off during these strikes. Die flow goes up into the broken area of the die, thereby forming a raised feature on there. Now, cuts generally involve areas around the rim. It goes into the design. Now, there are things like interior die breaks, kind of like what we saw earlier on that Tallgrass Prairie quarter, which don't involve the rim at all, and we don't call those cuts. We just call them like die chips and things like that. So again, the West Virginia quarter is probably the most highest profiled state where you can find these cuts, only because the interior design goes all the way up to the rim, and then you also have this channel right here, which is a weak point on the die. This one ended up selling for $12.55 with 5 bids. Pretty good considering that the coin shows quite a bit of circulation wear. So this particular seller had a full bank box, and man, this thing has been moved around, and it has gone through its paces in the last 13 years. But this is actually a $25 bank box of 2009 D log cabin Lincoln cents with 50 rolls, $25 face value, nice BU gemmies in here. Denver mints don't really have a whole lot going for them as far as, prospects. So if you bought this thinking, oh, I'm going to open these up, hoping to find some of those doubled dies that we hear so much about, you might want to think twice. Those are generally found on Philadelphia's and not on Denver minted coins. But nonetheless, this one was sold. The box looks worse for the wear, obviously. Doing its job, but this one sold for $106.83 with 9 bids. Up next is one of our favorites, but a much nicer graded example of the Kansas State quarter, the infamous In God We Rust, which features a clogged die right on the T there of the motto, or trust, rather. This is a very common thing to find out there. And believe it or not, these things are still selling to this day. For on the low end, like $5 to $10. And then, I've seen them go up to like $15, $20 on occasion. We've seen some of these featured where more of the letters are struck through or clogged with grease on the dies. And thereby, when the coins are struck, it's going to leave either a weak or completely missing letter on any of those areas. So this one here, the seller mentions that is a BU example. This one ended up selling for $39.99. Wow. Yeah, if you got these, apparently, yeah, they command quite a bit of money. And there is a a small select group of folks that buy these, and they buy them by, to collect a progression's worth of them. They're neat. Me personally, they're not for me, but if you could make this kind of money, I would say go for it. Make it a business to buy and sell these things. All right, so the good old Wilma Mankiller double cud error is the biggest coin of 2022, bar none. Although we've seen the price settle a little bit to something a little bit more reasonable. These are not that rare at all. People are finding them left and right. A good maybe 10 to 20 of them are being sold every week. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of the frequency in which these are being found. But you can see the cud, the retained cud here right above Washington's head. And you have this massive one here as well with the crack that goes nearly over half of the diameter of the coin. So this one right here, we've seen these coins sell for $600 to $800 on the regular basis. This one ended up at $460.60 with 3 bids. Just showing a little bit of a pullback because I think the people that really wanted this have gotten theirs. Like I said, now's the time to strike while these still have quite a bit of value. Because once we turn the calendar to 2023, things are going to change. The prices are going to drop on these. People are going to be focused on the next hottest design and the chase and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, these are still quite expensive. If you're looking to scrape up some cash, ahead of the holidays, look for this coin. This is going to do a whole world of wonders for you. And here's another one too. This one has actually caught a few folks by surprise. Another Wilma Mankiller Philly Minted edition. Has the tip of nose die chip on these, and some of them get pretty big. I've seen one that looks like just a grapefruit hanging off of his nose. A really nice size die chip. This one's more flat. But still, there's just something about these. People are willing to open up their wallets and own one. This one ended up selling for $16.55 with 17 bids. Just a really nice 1983 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one is off center by about 55%. Again, this might be pursued by a collector that wants this strictly for the date. They're collected by the date, by the way. Date set collectors will want this. And it's in pretty decent shape, albeit this is the infamous copper-coated zinc era. So, aesthetically, they're not the most pleasing looking of coins. This one ended up at $13.24 sale with 3 bids. Oh, we got another silver certificate. This is the second and final silver certificate that is featured on this weekend's PCMR. 1935D series, $1 SC. What we got here? I mean, nothing going on the front. Everything looks normal. The serial numbers match up. Keep in mind that during this era, there's mismatched serial numbers all over the place. And if we look at the back, oh my goodness. We have a seriously misaligned back print. So the sheet was obviously fed or whatever into the print chamber. Very, very cattywampus. There's no other better way of describing it. So the sheet was shifted during this back print process, thereby leaving this. So when it's cut, it looks nothing like the front. This one ended up as a $99.99 sale, $100. Pretty good, not too bad. More desirable misalignment for the print is usually found on the front. The back print is just, it's like secondary. Boy, we've seen quite a few Lincoln Wheat Cent off-center strikes. Here's yet another one to add to the list. It's in actually pretty decent shape, although we don't know what the full date is. We know it's a 1950s model here. We don't know if it's PD or S. Could be any one of those three, but yeah, this one's off-center. I would say, 25%, somewhere around there. $31 sale with 14 bids. Still a good seller. The more obsolete design types will covet more cash on the secondary market compared to, say, like the previous example with the Lincoln Memorial copper-coated zinc composition, not nearly as coveted for its date. All right, so we have a couple of these wild errors here, so allow me to explain what we got going on. So this is a 1981 Jefferson nickel. At least that's what we want to believe it is. It was struck off center, and it features 3 curved clips on there. So this has a lot of wildness going on here. Coin is in actually really nice shape. This is probably found a long time ago. When these were released in 1981, probably found in a mid-sewn bag, which is where a lot of these were found. Ungraded, which is quite spectacular. Usually with these type of coins, we do see them graded already. This one ended up as a very, very, very nice $257.60 sale with 33 bids. We actually have a few more similar to this one that we'll talk about in this show. Yeah, we got the good old Wounded Eagle. We like to talk about these at least once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on how crazy the market is. But 2,000 piece Sacagawea dollar. Yeah, this is a good one to look out for, and they are very, very highly liquid in today's market. Wounded Eagle features the couple of die gouges. This coin is actually one of the better looking ones that I've seen in quite a while. Some of the last previous examples I've talked about were pretty well stained or dirty, nicked up, corroded, damaged, you name it. Still selling for a decent amount of cash. This one right here, much better shape, ended up as a $189.45 sale here in the last 24 hours. Pretty cool one here. This is a note that probably you won't see too often. It's the 1985 $1 bill, which features a foldover, but here's the problem. Someone had torn the foldover. So this is almost like a fold over, printed over. I mean, if you look at the back, obviously a corner of the sheet had folded over at one point. And, you know, you do have some of that print of the reverse on that folded area that you can see there. But yeah, apparently someone did not personally care for the fold once it's unfolded. It actually makes the note become a very irregular shaped type of polygon at that point. So someone tore it. That's unfortunate. This note would have been just a dynamite find with the fold over. This one, even though it was damaged at one point, did sell for $200. So nice solid sale. Me personally, I would have gotten rid of it. It's too much of a baggage for me to keep things that are this problematic. But pretty cool, you know, when you look at the optics of what we have here and how these things are produced. You know, anything could happen, and they certainly did over the years. Always love talking about an early typeset error, 1902 Indian head set. That's a little bit off center on this one. It's still got a good look, got a little bit of wear, you know, which meant that back in the day, nobody really cared too much about these, even in circulation. It was just, you know, something that they used to buy their loaf of bread. So yeah, I'm willing to bet they probably would sing a different tune today in 2022. This one ended up selling for $139, which will probably buy 4 loaves of bread in today's money. Actually, no. They would buy a little bit more than that, but, you know, I just couldn't help but throw a little dig in the whole inflation era that we're living in today. Pretty neat one here. We have what they call a blowhole, raggedy, you know, planchet flaw, I guess. 1958 Lincoln wheat cent, which it does have a hole, and that is a crack. So the actual planchet was a deformed mess prior to the strike, and you know, normally these things, you know, they get pretty crazy at times. I've seen some pretty gnarly fissure, you know, type of blowholes like this. This one right here, really nice though. I actually like this one. It sold for $65 was the sale. which is a little bit on the high end, but I think a lot of that has to do with the overall general appearance of it. It's got a lot of mint red left, on the coin, which means it's a much more desirable coin because of the condition. But it's just really neat to see things like this. Just a sign of the times, I guess. Another good one here. A very tough date, by the way. 1917S Buffalo Nickel. Off center by about 10%-ish, somewhere around there. Good looking coin. Very, very expensive coin that sold for $424.95. And really, a lot of that has to do with the date. This is one that you don't traditionally see come up in the marketplace. And, just like anything else of this particular error type, these are being collected by date. So if there's one that nobody has for their set, they're going to compromise and pay, a little bit extra to own it. So I would imagine that there can't be too many 1917S's, along with any other Denver or San Francisco minted teens Buffalo Nickel that's off center. So consider this a win for both the seller and buyer. Good to see things like this that are not graded yet. All right, so we have a 1983 P Roosevelt dime. What's happening here? What's on the reverse? Well, we have a partial missing reverse clad layer. All right, so the nickel clad layer is gone. It doesn't appear like it was helped along. Like it could have been a clamshell lamination. But I really firmly believe that, this is probably one that was just on there, when the plancha was punched out of the strip. You could see that weakness in that very area. So this obviously was done pre-strike, based off of that, how thin that area is there on the edge. Pretty neat. I love it. Actually, the simplicity of this coin actually makes it really, really attractive. This one ended up as a $29.95 sale, which is on par for coins of this type for this era. Pretty neat one here. This is just a really nice high-end 1975D Jefferson nickel, off-center by 75% per the seller. And good-looking coin, features a full date mint mark. That's very important to collectors of this. $30 was the sale price with 6 bids. Well done. Now here's the other off-center clipped coin for the week. And it's a 1983P Lincoln Memorial. So same thing. It struck off-center and has 3 clips. Large clips. I mean, this is actually a lot more radical than the previous coin, the nickel. This one right here was a beautiful sale, $122.50 with 6 bids. You just don't see them, pop out in the market that much. And what's crazy is this one, based off of my general observation, did see a little bit of circulation. I mean, anyone who's not in coins will take a look at this and know that something's wrong with it. They'll either figure, oh man, that thing's damaged beyond belief, or they'll know it's a U.S. Mint error. So the person that did find it and deemed it a U.S. Mint error, well done. That was a good sale. Here's another one similar to that other 58D that we'd seen a few slides ago. This is another defective planchet strike, on a defective planchet, another end of strip, ragged Fisher type of clip. You can see it here above trust, and then to a lesser degree on the reverse, right over the word God, right there in the motto. Again, very attractive looking coin. I think this is probably the same seller as the other one. This one ended up as a $22.70 sale with 6 bids. Another neat one here, 1972D, features a detached lamination that is folded and accordioned up quite nicely. Kind of hard to tell if maybe it detached or it was struck onto the coin as a strike through. Could be either. They get pretty similar when they get to, in this particular kind of look to it. The coin's not perfect. It does have a little bit of green corrosion on the front there. This one is a $17.99 sale with 8 bids. So, pretty nice. And then probably from the same seller, we have a really nice partial brockage indent style here on this Lincoln Memorial. It's a Denver Mint too. Oh, wow. That's something we don't see too often for brockages. But yeah, pretty looking coin here. $53 is what this one sold for with 2 bids. And then we also have another one of these coins that are struck through a late stage capped die. So again, this is another great example, kind of like that 1982 large date that we saw earlier in this video. This is a 68D, so there's enough there to know that this is a Denver minted coin. Yes, they did struggle with things like this as well. Very nice hammered strike on the reverse. This one sold for $50 with 4 bids. This is one I would sell all day long. Sure, it's a double struck coin. We do know it's a 1990, but man, these copper-coated Zinkins are a virtual mess. This thing is not long for the world. This thing it's already formed corrosion all throughout. Yeah, so this is a no-brainer. Definitely sell this one. But it managed to earn $23.10 with 3 bids. So there is an owner for this one. Enjoy it while it lasts. So, yeah, pretty neat. All right, this might be our last piece of currency on the list, but this is a really cool binary serial number on a 2009 $1 bill featuring 3s and 7s. But note, the condition of the note is this thing is ragtag. It's not known for its beauty, that's for sure. But that serial number sure does take the edge off a little bit. This one sold for $24. All right, that's a pretty good sale. Binaries are traditionally one of the lower end, more available to find serial number types if you're going for fancies. Wow. I mean, so this one came up. I was just, my jaw hit the floor. This is what they call a double denomination error. It's a 1978 Lincoln cent that was struck on a 1978 Roosevelt dime. The dime was already struck. There have been a few of these double denoms that have popped up on the market, in the last 20, 30 years. They are out there. People are finding these things. This one does show a little bit of circulation wear. You can see it on the high points of the design. What's really cool is you can see also the underlying design of the dime. This is a clad dime that this Lincoln cent is on. These are always valuable. This one, by the way, sold for $603 with 6 bids. I've seen them go a lot higher, especially the mid-state graded coins. They tend to go for over $1,000 real easily. So consider this a example of I guess a little bit cheaper, easier to obtain example, if that makes sense. But they're really cool, man. Especially when you have 2 full readable dates like what you see on this one. So our feature coin is one in which that had circulated for the longest time. And I'm in disbelief that this coin here, a 1995 D Washington quarter, which is missing obviously its entire nickel clad layer on the obverse, had managed to circulate all this time before someone actually found it. And I'm glad someone did. Someone did save this thing from further obscurity and damage and all that stuff. But yeah, this is a very nice marquee error. The planchet, I would imagine, is a little bit thinner because of the missing clad layer. You can see the weakness in the strike in certain areas on the reverse. This one right here sold for $39.95. And keep in mind, that's the amount of money for a beater of a coin like this one. Can you imagine if the coin was in nicer condition? Yeah, the price only goes up from there. Yep, you guessed it. We have another Lincoln cent here that was struck through a late-stage capped die, this time in 1977. Pretty nice. I mean, this one is gorgeous because it's got all sorts of mint red. It's a great example. If you're looking for one, and you didn't want to spend boatloads of money, I mean, you could still get one that looks like this from the bronze era of Lincolns and do really well. This one sold for $32 with 2 bids. Yep, you guessed it. Another coin that was struck through a late stage capped die. This time a 1991 P Roosevelt dime. Yeah, I mean, you guys need to know that that reverse has a really nice perfect strike while the obverse is all mushy. That's your telltale sign on these. Pretty cool. Great to see it on something else other than Lincoln cents. This one right here sold for $29.95. Just a really good solid sale here. Yep, Tuskegee Airmen making an appearance with a good old burning building strike through. It's a field restricted strike through is the actual numismatic terminology to describe what we got going on here. But again, these are on 2021 P Mint Tuskegee Airmen quarters. Again, these things are over a year old since its discovery and still has been selling really well. They're not as expensive as they used to be. But at the same token, a lot of them are being found pretty well circulated, like this one here. This one also features just a nice multiple kind of strike throughs. This one looks like another missile coming off of the airplane there. $85 is what this one sold for. And again, as we go into 2023, these are still going to sell very strong. There's always going to be desirability for these. And then finally, we have this one here to round up our show for the weekend. 1964D is the date of Kennedy half dollars. You must look at every single example for a repunch mint mark, for a double to die. There are oodles of really cool finds to look for on this particular date. And yes, again, it is a Denver. This is one of the coolest coins, again, that you can find, featuring just amazing doubling. This is actually DDO number 3, also FS103 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. This one was also sold by Errors and Such 01 on eBay. This particular seller does really well selling these coins on there. And yet, here is another one here that you could add to the list. The seller had mentioned that this is a BU plus coin, so we'll just go with that. It did sell for $74.75 with 7 bids. Here's another look at some more words from the motto, showing that amazing doubling. And on the DDO number 3, it does have a die marker, which is a die scratch that goes from the E on, I believe that's states on the reverse, to the rim. So, that's one of those things to look out for to kind of solidify the DDO number 3 attribution on this one. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to go ahead and do it again for another spectacular Pocket Change Market Report. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. It was always a pleasure, and hopefully this video gives you some inspiration to go out and do some hunting of your own. By the way, in my community tab, I had posted a few spoilers of some of the giveaway items for our holiday event coming up December 5th on the live coin Q&A live stream, which is a Monday. So I would encourage you guys, if you're looking to participate in a great holiday event, we will be there December 5th. We will be doing more spoiler videos and other various spoiler posts on the community tabs of both channels as we get closer to the event. So go ahead and check it out. But it's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this one on November 19th. Man, we're almost there. Almost there. Kind of sad, actually. I want the holidays to just keep on trucking so that way we can do more hunting. But thank you guys for tuning in again. Love you guys. Thank you for all the views and support. And I shall see you guys on the next coin video. So long.